Yes! Hello, my beautiful friends. What an amazing day it is. Welcome back. I hope your week was absolutely outstanding and you have accomplished all the things as you arrive right here on this lovely and incredible Friday. We made it through another busy week, but we're not done yet. We got some clown show judges that we got to talk about today, including Judge Boasberg, Jeb. This guy we've been following for a long time now, and he's getting very ornery out there. And the clock is ticking. We've got this contempt trial that's supposed to be starting early next week. So quick preview on what's coming up on the show. Then we'll unpack the motions with further detail. But Pam Bondi came out. She said, we filed a new Mandamus petition. We're asking the Court of Appeals to come back down immediately and give the old proverbial legal backhand to Judge James Boasberg for acting a fool. They're also asking that he be removed from the case, no longer on this case anymore. We'll go through the latest. Of course, this is a reaction to what's happening in the case of JGG versus Trump. This is the illegal aliens being deported. The judge came down with an order that looks like this. We'll read through it. Very short order from him. And then we'll go to what the DOJ is sending up the chain to the District of Columbia, the DC Circuit Court of Appeals, because we've got a bunch of stuff happening Monday, early next week, and we need them to come in here and tell this judge to knock it off. So we'll talk about that. Then we'll turn our attention to Fulton County, which is the origin of Fani Willis. This is where Fanny Land resides. Horrible theme park. Do not go. Atlanta, Georgia, we see that the United States of America suing the clerk of the courts for Fulton County to get their hands on some of those voter records from that infamous election of 2020. So we'll see what the DOJ is saying here. They've also unleashed some other lawsuits for these records in other states, Colorado, Hawaii, Massachusetts, Nevada, and more. And we'll see what's going on with some of the other lawsuits. We'll just queue up, for example, Massachusetts and see what's going on over there before we hear from Harmeet Dhillon herself. Man, she's so amazing. We can't wait to hear from her. All coming up in what's happening in Fanny Land. The noxious odor will knock you out. So we got that. Then we'll talk about this Tina Peters situation because the president has come down, issued a pardon, but all of the monsters in Colorado are saying we're not going to abide by any of this. The attorney general, this guy called Weiser, look at him. He said, we're not doing anything to release Tina. These are state charges, not federal charges. And even Secretary of State Griswald, who probably belongs in jail based on her rigging of the election, at least tampering with the machines, back after she leaked the BIOS passwords all over the internet, Leaky Jenna Griswald. So she came out with a statement about Tina Peters. And Ron Johnson is asking about some other scumbag judges out there, including who he says is this guy, who is now getting investigated because apparently one judge basically had another judge write an opinion. They went after this dude called Jim Trupis, former Wisconsin circuit judge. He filed a motion to dismiss. He got charged for being Trump's defense attorney. And another judge actually wrote the decision and then gave it to some other dumb judge. And the dumb judge was like, I'll just sign my name on your homework. Cheaters, cheaters, cheaters. So Ron Johnson sent a letter over to the DOJ to ask all about it, saying, we think that this guy is being railroaded in Wisconsin, and we don't appreciate that. So now we're looking into it. So lots of pressure on these judges and these maniacs. Tina Peters got a presidential pardon, but there will be more complexities around that. So it is going to be just a tremendous and a beautiful and an amazing stream. Happy Friday. I hope you accomplished everything you set your mind to. And this weekend, if you're going to be cooking, boy, do we have an idea for you. It's called Chef IQ, baby. And we've talked about them before. They make this product here. It's pretty awesome. You get these little ceramic probes that you can shove into your meats. And it's a really awesome app, actually. So you don't have to worry about overcooking your food. This thing will literally tell you when to flip your food over. It will show you the temperature of the food while it's on the grill. So you can put it, shove it into a piece of steak or something, shove it on the grill. And it will tell you when to flip it. it will tell you pull it off. It will say your food is now resting. And then once you pull it off the grill, it will rest until it reaches its final temperature. Pretty amazing. And so now you don't have to worry about overcooked meat. It's embarrassing. Oh, I just grilled up some chicken. Everybody's like, okay. They don't like that. So don't do that anymore. Become a better grillster like your boy here. Get Chef IQ, and you can go to chefiq.com. It's all linked down in the description below. Use code Robert. You'll save 30% off. It's a great holiday gift. I've bought it for like everybody in my whole life and more. I just ordered some more for Christmas for friends and family because everybody loves it. It's actually a really, really, really nice device, and you don't wreck your food. So check it out, chefiq.com. Use promo code Robert. You'll save 30% off, and it's a great gift for the holiday season. And thanks for supporting the sponsor of today's show. All right, now, without any further ado, let's get into it. President Trump and the DOJ now fighting for an urgent appeal. They need the D.C. Circuit Court to come back down and tell this judge, Judge James Boasberg Jeb, to knock it off. They're asking now that the decision and the order saying that there will be contempt proceedings, or at least an evidentiary hearing that will lead to contempt proceedings coming up next week. We cannot allow that to happen. They want the poison pill attorney, Ruvani, and others to come in. And the Judge Boasberg wants to use this to go after Kristi Noem and the rest of the administration. So Pam Bondi came out. She kind of hit the panic button on this. Said today, the Justice Department filed a new Mandamus petition in the D.C. Circuit to stop Judge Jeb and his lawless judicial activism. And we're here to defend the president's agenda. His latest order that we're reading in a minute threatens attorney-client privilege and the separation of powers that underpins our entire government. All because this administration, President Trump, dared to remove Venezuelan Tren de Aragua terrorists from this country. This radical, retaliatory, unconstitutional campaign against the Trump administration will not stand. And now the petition for a writ of mandamus, which is a big one, saying, hey, you have to remove this judge, is now working its way up to the Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit. Now, here is what the order said from the judge himself. You can see this is Judge Jeb, and there's been a lot that's been coming crashing in on this docket as the judge is racing the Trump DOJ to an evidentiary hearing to basically find whether he can hold the administration in contempt, Kristi Noem. And for those who've not been following us thus far on this case, this was about the airplane in the sky filled with illegals. The judge said, turn the airplane around. They said, we're already outside the United States. You have no jurisdiction over us. And they landed the plane and deboarded everybody. The judge said, oh, you violated a court order. Went up to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court said, you don't actually have jurisdiction over this. He said, well, I can still have jurisdiction over contempt because even though it wasn't a legal order, I still ordered you to do it. And you didn't do that. And so he's latching onto other case law that says he can proceed in the contempt track, but not in the regular track. So in other words, he got told by the Supreme Court he can't do this, and he's doing it. He has no jurisdiction, but he's still proceeding under the contempt track. So a lot of stuff has been coming skidding in here. And the judge reviewed everything, and you can say and see that the judge ruled against the DOJ. They were asking for a stay, and they asked for a motion to reconsider because the judge was saying, you got contempt proceedings coming up. They said, we don't need that. You've already got all the information you need. They filed a motion to reconsider. Judge said no. He says, all right, listen, on December 8th, not long ago, earlier this week, the court, Judge Jeb, he ordered that live witness testimony would be warranted in an inquiry, an evidentiary hearing into whether a contempt referral is appropriate for Trump officials to prosecute them. And we might be hearing a lot more about this. If he appoints a special prosecutor or, this actually escalates into contempt, this is something that has the ability to dog the administration in the same way that Russia collusion did, right? He's opening up a criminal investigation. Oh, Carter Page and warrants, and everybody's under investigation now. So criminal investigation. So this judge is teeing it up. He's, I don't know if I'm going to make a referral. I just have to investigate. We know what he's going to do. Now, the government now moves for reconsideration, saying, Judge, can you think about this again? You screwed up. Saying, you asked me, the judge, not to conduct the hearing or to greatly restrict the testimony so that these people don't come in and spill the guts about their attorney-client privilege. But Jeb says, actually, The court is going to deny that motion. To begin with, this inquiry is not some academic exercise, writes Judge Jebb. Approximately 137 men were spirited out of this country without a hearing and placed in a high-security prison in El Salvador, where many, he says, suffered abuse, can't prove that, and possible torture, despite this court's order that they should not be disembarked. And he is going to link us over to a documentary. Okay, this is what this judge is doing, and I queued that up for us right over here. November 12th. Here's a link. He linked us over the perma.cc record. Torture and other abuses in a mega prison in El Salvador. Oh, no. Other Venezuelans were there. The plane landed. Boo-hoo for the illegal aliens who invaded our country. So the judge is saying, I can't believe it. This is so ridiculous. 137 illegals. Now, the question the court must now answer is whether this occurred via contumacious conduct by the Trump officials, like Kristi Noem. The en banc DC circuit, so when they appealed the contempt proceedings, they said, the judge said, oh, well, we can move forward with this. The Court of Appeals said, we can move forward with contempt. And consider that it was a 6-5 decision in favor of that. So the judge said, I have to do a little bit of a reset. I can reset this and actually probe. And that's what I'm doing. Now, I can ask about the official state of mind. So I did. So what we got back were declarations from Secretary Noem and Homeland Mazzara and Emil Bove, which we read earlier this week, and Todd Blanche. They all said, this is how we decided to do what we did. We run the executive branch, back off. But the judge said, well, I read their declarations and I don't know anything. So the circuit, the Court of Appeals, has also vacated this court's prior probable cause determination. So I'm not going to find that there is actual contempt at the moment, but I'm still going to probe and investigate. Now, although this does not compel the court to return to square one since my prior order got vacated, I must reach a fresh conclusion now. And this is warranted where significant new information, he says, in the form of Erez Ruvani, this is the poison pill DOJ lawyer who was, in our opinion, responsible for perverting the details about the Kilmar Abrego case, who's now walking around free in America, talking in Spanish about how he's going to fight the administration, has come to light since the court's probable cause finding. So this guy, who I believe is dishonest, in my opinion, he's a dishonest liar. He's a poison pill attorney who tried to go in there and pervert the Kilmar case and poison pill the whole thing. He's going to come back and just wreck the DOJ. Wreck him. And the judge is going to give him an open forum to do it. Much of his account bears directly on the question of willfulness. In addition, given their close familiarity with the case, the plaintiffs, the illegal aliens, are now allowed to assist the court. Now, they would conversely have no role where they're an actual contempt prosecution, but this is not an actual contempt prosecution. This is just an inquiry. So normally those illegals wouldn't have any say in it, but the judge is going to listen to them because it's just an inquiry and he can do whatever he wants. While the government also asserts that the court's inquiry should be cabined to March 15th, that's too restrictive. What occurred at the March 14th meeting with the DOJ attorneys, so they're going to try to ensnare all these people. And by the way, Emil Bove is in the Third Circuit right now. He's a Court of Appeals judge. So if they could come after all these people, they could take out Emil Bove, they could take out Kristi Noem, they could take out Todd Blanche, they could take out Drew Ensign. They all may be well available to help illuminate what was going on in their minds. Nor would everything said at such meetings even be covered by attorney-client privilege. Okay, all these lawyers are meeting around talking about these cases. The judge says, you know what, I'm going to breach your privilege. It's the sole privilege that they invoked. They say no client was even there. This was just like a staffing meeting. And so there was no legal advice. And so your privilege doesn't even apply. So I'm just going to pierce everything. So in any event, to the extent that the future contempt was being considered, the crime fraud exception would vitiate any privilege anyways. And I think that all of these appointed people at the DOJ, he says, I think that you're breaking the law, just like they did with President Trump and his attorney called Evan Corcoran when Beryl Howell was breaching attorney-client privilege there, saying Trump was committing crimes by talking to his lawyers. It's insane. Then if you go the opposite direction, ask about James Comey and Daniel Richman's attorney-client privilege. Judges will twist themselves into a pretzel to uphold that, even though, in our opinion, they were committing crimes. No real crime fraud exception invoked there. So double standards throughout the board. Now, the court will remain mindful of attorney-client privileges that may pertain to any other testimony, and the government can object. But at this stage, the illegals have pointed out numerous reasons why the privileges may not apply, and the court is going to limit the scope of the testimony to the current case and will not permit questions about other matters unless there's relevance. So in sum, the court says, we see no reason to delay the entire hearing while waiting for further guidance, and so the hearing will continue as scheduled. Your motion to reconsider DOJ Pam Bondi is denied. Judge Jeb Boasberg, again, coming in and just ridiculing the administration, who thus far has just been taking it. So that is what the judge sent down. Now we see, and just a reminder, this is the judge. He was appointed by, let's see here. Been around for a long time. Obama originally, then got appointed into senior positions at various judgeships, chief judge, terrorist removal court, all the things. So he's been around for a long time. Now the DOJ responded to this and they said, hey, all right, we got to remove Judge Jeb. This is getting ridiculous. And we're now taking this up to the Court of Appeals. So this got filed today. This is what Pam Bondi was talking about in her post this morning. We're now asking for a petition for a writ of mandamus. We need you to come in and order this judge to do things that are more in alignment with the law. Fast forwarding through the preliminary documents until we get to this page. 9 months ago, writes the Trump DOJ, Judge Jeb, in this case, we remember that airplane was just flying him out. Jeb came back and issued a temporary restraining order that stopped us from removing an entire class of aliens. Remember, class actions now for illegal alien gangbangers under the Alien Enemies Act. Can't remove them because they're better than us. Now, the Supreme Court promptly vacated that order. Supreme Court said, sorry, Judge Jeb, you're terrible. You lose. You have no jurisdiction. Trump can do it. But ever since that happened, the district judge, Jeb, has been doggedly pursuing an idiosyncratic and misguided inquiry into whether we willfully violated the TRO and whether we committed criminal contempt. We didn't, and we have repeatedly and forthrightly explained why we didn't, but this court has barreled ahead. First, Jeb found probable cause for contempt and threatened to initiate criminal proceedings unless the government, he was saying, I know I can't order you to do this, but you have to do it or I'm going to hold you in contempt. He said, so he found probable cause. He threatened criminal proceedings back then unless we comply. This court of Appeals said no. They granted a writ of mandamus and they quashed that coercive order because it was ridiculous. Then the judge didn't care. Judge Jeb, he has now decided that he wants to personally investigate the mens rea, which is the mindset. And anytime you have a criminal case, not anytime, but most times, most criminal charges have two components, a mens rea and an actus reus. Some don't have a mens rea. Just if you did the thing, that's enough. That's called strict liability. Doesn't really care what you think. I thought she was 16. Doesn't matter. I thought she was 19. Doesn't matter. She was 16. Okay, so that's your problem. So even if you thought she was older, it doesn't matter. Okay, it's strict liability. You did the thing. You're done. So mens rea, though, is the guilty part of the mind. When we talk about murder cases, it comes out, was it premeditated? Was it a crime of passion? What was the thought process that went behind the murder? That's the mens rea, the guilty mind. So now this judge is his own little prosecutor. He's going after Kristi Noem and everybody to drag them in here and make them answer questions. He is compelling live testimony next week from government attorneys. This latest order portends a circus. And I put the clown nose on the thumbnail before I even saw that word in here, that threatens the separation of powers and the attorney-client privilege alike, because it is a circus. Mandamus is once again required. We're back here because this judge is acting a fool. Since March of this year, Trump and the defendants have consistently explained that the judge's order only prohibited removal, quote, and thus it did not require the government to return anybody who had already been physically removed prior to that order. They were already removed. While the judge had made some oral statements at an earlier hearing that he wanted the government to turn the planes around because he's the president, those statements were inconsistent. They were tentative. They were superseded by a written order that purported to memorialize the decree but said nothing about returning anyone from anywhere. Now, as Judge Katsas reasoned last time we were here, Court of Appeals, we were correct. The TRO did not require returning anybody, especially if they were already removed. Even if one disagrees with this, his concurrence makes it impossible to conclude that we defied a clear and unambiguous order, okay? A Court of Appeals judge agrees with our decision that your interpretation was wrong. It's not the majority, but one higher level judge says, I understand what they were doing. So that makes it ambiguous. It was not clear and unambiguous if multiple people could have multiple reads of it. Still, Judge Jebb didn't care. The district court has plunged forward in a doubly unconstitutional manner, by the way, by conducting its own criminal investigation. Where's Congress? What are they working on this week? Well, we know what they were working on earlier this week. They were very concerned that some songs were being played on the radio and the artists weren't getting their royalties about them. I don't know. So they worked hard on that. But meanwhile, Judge Jebb is acting as his own prosecutor to go after the entire administration, and John Thune won't even get rid of the blue slip. So contra to the separation of powers, he's doing his own. He's acting like the judge, jury, and the executioner now. And in doing so in a way that appears designed to punish Trump for their successful Mandamus petition. We were already here and backhanded this judge proverbially before. Now, in its original order, Jebb found probable cause on every element of contempt and directed the defendants to identify the officials who made these decisions to remove these illegals. Now, we have done so. We named everybody, including Kristi Noem and the senior attorneys who advised her. We gave them sworn declarations, all of them to the judge. But the judge has moved the goalposts again, insisting without explanation he now lacks sufficient information on willfulness now. And he's now using that hook to drag all of these people in to conduct a little trial. But evaluating a putative defendant's mens rea, saying, I know what's going on in that person's brain. I know that they had a criminal mindset. That is an investigative function. He can't do that. That's a core executive power. This court, the lower court, has strayed far beyond its role, which is limited to identifying a violation and referring it to prosecution. A prosecutor can go figure out what's going on in their minds, but you can't, Jebb. That is unconstitutional and a problem. Now, the judge's order that we just read is also incoherent on its own terms. There was no willful violation as a matter of law because the TRO, the restraining order, it did not clearly forbid the conduct that we're even fighting about. But if the court disagrees, there are no factual issues to even investigate. Now, perhaps a defendant could invoke an advice of counsel defense at trial, but there's no basis to compel that choice at the probable cause phase. Plus, the witnesses the court has called that are coming in have no personal knowledge whatsoever of the decision-making maker's scienter, their state of mind. Now, one is the government's lead litigation counsel. He's already attested he played no role in the decision at all. The other is a whistleblower who has admitted, Ruvani, the poison pill, that he was excluded from these discussions, so he has no knowledge. The forthcoming hearing has every appearance of an endless fishing expedition aimed at an ever-widening list of witnesses and a prolonged testimony. It's a spectacle. It's not a genuine effort to uncover any relevant facts. Now, while the testimony that the judge is demanding is completely irrelevant to its stated purpose, it does pose a mortal threat to attorney-client privilege. Both witnesses are or were lawyers for the government. We haven't waived any privilege, but the judge intends to put them on the stand and even allow the plaintiffs, these gangbang-loving ACLU lawyers, to cross-examine them. This is grossly improper by every measure, and the ACLU has made clear it believes all privileges have either been waived or vitiated because they're saying we're committing crimes. Now, we have sought an advance ruling or protocol to resolve any of this, but you have refused to commit to anything, Judge Jebb. And so, in short, Court of Appeals, if you don't intervene, this lower-level judge called Jebb, he plans to compel wide-ranging testimony from government lawyers starting on Monday, with cross-examination by opposing counsel. They all have a partisan interest in attacking the government and its officials. No meaningful protections in place to protect privilege, despite overall threats to vitiate those protections, all in a putative criminal investigation where there's no constitutional authority, where a judge has already determined to have been flawed as a matter of law in the whole case. even though these witnesses have no knowledge relevant to the sole question that the court seeks ostensibly to investigate. Man, that's a hell of a sentence. I think that was one sentence, full paragraph sentence. And that was for effect. And they got it. Now, this long-running saga never should have begun, should not have continued at all after this court's last intervention, and certainly should not be allowed to escalate into the unseemly and unnecessary inter-branch conflict that it now imminently portends. This Court of Appeals, should therefore, again, grant mandamus relief like it did last time and foreclose any further inquiry. Stop this. This court should also order the case to be reassigned. Take it away from Jeb, given the strong appearance that this judge is engaged in a pattern of retaliation and harassment. Hey, Congress, are you listening? And has developed a strong bias to preside over this matter impartially. Now, by separate motion, we also requested a stay and an emergency administrative stay, and all of this is scheduled to begin on Monday morning, and the judge just said, we're going, so get over here. Until the Court of Appeal says no, we're here. Now, this goes on more. We'll hit the highlights. Background on the original case. The AEA, Alien Enemies Act, says the president can get rid of illegals. On Saturday, March 15th, 5 Venezuelan nationals who were in Texas, they sued illegal alien invaders. They sue. They don't care about our laws on the way in, but they really care about them on the way out. And suddenly they get the privilege to invoke them because our society's stupid. Within hours, the district court granted an initial TRO. They sue. They say, hey, we're a class of gangbangers. The illegal alien loving judges like Judge Jeb don't even hear from the government. They issue an order, do not remove anybody from this country. Later that day, the court held a hearing. It granted a class certification for all of the illegals and said you can't remove anyone. And you got all these rules. Shortly after the hearing ended at 7:25, the court issued a minute order. Planes were already in the air. 2 flights had already departed before the written order came down, and even before the oral directives. Planes are in the sky. You're out, Jeb. Early the next day, they were already physically removed. They got dumped in the jail. Now, there is not and ever has been any factual dispute about this timeline at all. Now, the government appealed both these orders. After oral argument, the court issued a divided ruling. Then it went up to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court said, sorry, Judge Jeb, you're an idiot. You don't even have the jurisdiction to issue the TRO. You lose. Supreme Court said, sorry, your claims, illegals, are habeas corpus claims. Go file them in Texas. Get out of DC. They're detained in Texas. File a petition in Texas. Stop forum shopping and going to DC to get your favorite judges. Now, in the meantime, Judge Jeb came out and issued a new order to show cause. He says, you took these illegals out. I said, don't take them. And now they're gone. But despite the intervening Supreme Court vacatur deleting his prior order, he then proceeded. He kept going. He said, well, yeah, I know I didn't have jurisdiction, but you should have done what I said is illegal. And then I'm going to find you in criminal contempt. He reasoned, well, my written order were sufficiently clear and you didn't follow my orders. He found probable cause. He said, you're in big trouble unless you do what I say. We said, well, you don't have jurisdiction to make us do that. He says, well, I do have jurisdiction over contempt. And if you don't do it, then I'm going to hold you in contempt. The government said, this is insane. How can he hold us in contempt over something for which he has no jurisdiction? They filed a mandamus petition. Court granted a stay and granted the petition by a divided vote. There were concurring opinions, independent bases for this, but Judge Katsas, one of the judges, said they didn't violate any orders. There was not a clear order, so there can't be criminal contempt. Judge Rao also reasoned that the court's purge option was unconstitutional because contempt could not be used to enforce a vacated order. Then we sought an en banc hearing, and this court denied that request. Okay, so it's like kind of a squirmy decision that came back down. No clear majority, couple different rationales. The judge just found, Boasberg, a way to squeeze it through. So almost immediately following the denial of the rehearing, Even before the issuance of the mandate, Judge Boasberg said, perfect, I'm picking right back up. We said, that's ridiculous. One of the Court of Appeals judges said that we had already complied with the TRO and agreed with our interpretation of the TRO, and so you can't prosecute us for that. But we also said, if you want to continue to investigate this, we have privileged legal advice. You can't even ask questions of any of these people. Now, the district court, Jeb, rejected Katz's opinion. He said, well, it wasn't a majority opinion. And so since there was no clear majority, I can do what we want. So we sent in declarations. And although the original contempt order had found probable cause, that had to be reversed. The judge declared, well, so then the DOJ was saying, well, you've already come to your probable cause determination, so you can't ask any more questions. He said, well, I do now. That was actually vacated. And now I want Erez Ruvani, the self-appointed whistleblower, who in our opinion is not a whistleblower at all. He's a poison pill. And was responsible for helping get another illegal alien, Kilmar Abrego, released. Defendants moved for reconsideration and a protective order. We said, you can't dig into us. You can't go ask us about our willfulness. You don't even have people that even know anything about this. Ruvani, the poison pill, he then sent a judge a letter saying, I want to come and talk. I want to come and wreck. And he'll join, teams with Norm Eisen and Mark Elias. He'll get right in their group chat. Plaintiffs also opposed defendant's motion. And they said, nope, you don't get privilege because we think you committed a crime and we can pierce all of your protections. So they say, we are entitled to mandamus. This district court order usurps core executive functions. He's launching a criminal investigation. He's trying to dig into the mens rea. He doesn't have the ability to do that. Mandamus is necessary, Court of Appeals. We need you to step in. Now, if this judge, lower court, continues to believe that we violated the TRO, that's great. They can refer us over for prosecution, but they can't conduct the investigation on his own. He's a judge, not a prosecutor. And its decision to do so here is both dubious and troubling, given that Trump has already provided all of the information that is necessary. And before, he already came to a probable cause determination, so now he's just trying to probe. This is a criminal offense. Guess what happens with criminal offenses? The executive branch prosecutes them, not this judge. Referral is required. You can't just handle it on your own. Now, this inquiry here is intruding onto the executive branch, and it should not be allowed to stand. Any rationale that he's given is hardly credible. He's an idiot, given that the court already found probable cause for a referral months ago. At that point, he just needed to identify the people, right? He said originally, I just want names, then I will refer that, and then somebody else can evaluate it. But now he's not doing that. Now he's saying, I got to be the prosecutor. I want live testimony. This raises serious concerns about his vindictiveness and his retaliation. Hey, Jim Jordan, are you listening, Jim? Chuck Grassley, are you out there? We'd like to know if you're out there. The impropriety of this district court's unprecedented and intrusive order shows how manifestly unnecessary it is at multiple levels. For one, it's now clearer than ever that no contempt charges would even be viable. It has to be a clear order. Court of Appeals said it was not a clear order. And you dismissed the concurrence because you said it wasn't a majority. But that's the best decision that came back down from them. And the fact that it exists shows there is another plausible interpretation. So therefore, your order was ambiguous because multiple lawyers thought about it differently, even on the Court of Appeals. We also have attorney-client privilege. They have not raised any basis for why that should be breached. And all the people that they're ordering to come in and testify didn't even have a role in the decision. They played no role in Kristi Noem's decision-making. They're instead hauling these senior officials in here to pay homage to the judge. And the court has compelled testimony from two litigators too. They have nothing to even say on this. Drew Ensign, shout out. He represents defendants in litigation, but he didn't make this decision. He played no role in formulating the legal advice. And for Ruvani, the poison pill who loves illegals, he likewise has no relevant firsthand knowledge about the advice given to the secretary. Even in his so-called whistleblower report, there's nothing in there. There's no information at all. His report says he was thrown out of these meetings. for being dumb, in our opinion. Now, the only testimony that he could give would relate to his own understanding, which is not legally relevant at all. So any criminal contempt proceedings here are lacking in jurisdiction. You thought that even though the Supreme Court said that you lacked jurisdiction, that you found some other jurisdiction and have been hanging your hat on that one this entire time. But Court of Appeals, that's wrong. That's bad legal analysis. He's citing these cases that are just terrible. And if he doesn't have jurisdiction, he doesn't have jurisdiction. Okay, this is legally futile, and you should not allow this to continue. Finally, saying end it now in the whole thing. In short, Judge Jeb has assumed a prosecutorial function in violation of the separation of powers. He's launching his own investigation into the DOJ. And he's done so in a way that instigates serious interbranch tensions for no valid purpose at all. The Court of Appeals, Judge Katsas, already gave a clear explanation for how our interpretation was appropriate. And there is an obvious mismatch between the court's order and the purpose. He's trying to harass the executive branch. There's a clear jurisdictional bar. He has no further capabilities to bring contempt proceedings. And so, hey, Chuck Grassley, Jim Jordan, this is an egregious and aberrational order. Egregious and aberrational order that warrants a writ of mandamus before this Judge Jeb does further irreparable damage to the separation of powers. Maybe Congress could start their impeachment inquiry, which they said they were going to look at like a month ago. Now, mandamus is warranted for another reason too. Ordering two litigators from the DOJ to stand subject to cross-examination by their opposing counsel threatens our attorney-client privilege as well. These ACLU gangbanging lawyers who have no business participating in a contempt inquiry at all have made clear they intend to take this opportunity. They're going to come out swinging. They're going to make their names. They're going to write books. They're going to get jobs at MSNBC, MS Now, MSNBC. And the district court has refused to account for that risk. They don't care. Ensign serves, and Ruvani previously served as lawyers, literally in this case. Both have engaged in communications. Both have protections. Now, although Ruvani is no longer employed by the government, it's not his privilege. It's our privilege, not his. And it doesn't matter that he made disclosures as a so-called whistleblower, in quotes, Democrat hack. That doesn't give him permission to speak. Putting these attorneys on the stand poses an intolerably high risk of violating this privilege. And confirming the problem, this Ruvani character, he sent a letter to the district court effectively requesting an order directing him to divulge privileged communications so that he could not breach his ethical obligations. All of this done under seal. We haven't even seen it on the public docket yet. We haven't seen it. And plaintiffs late last night, the ACLU gangbang lawyers, they filed a lengthy opposition saying we waived our privilege just because we mentioned it. So the judge is going on the attack. Now, although Trump raised serious concerns with this court, we asked for a protective order. We asked for a continuance. They said no. And the scheduled testimony is starting Monday morning. Now, as this court has recognized, once privileged information is disclosed, the bell cannot be unrung. And so mandamus is necessary to preserve our rights. And this is exacerbated by another miscarriage of justice. Although plaintiffs and their ACLU lawyers want to participate in a freewheeling inquiry, this court has not only ordered us, the defense, to put their litigation counsel on the stand, but we also have to be subject to cross-examination from these ACLU maniacs. We're not on trial. There is no basis for opposing counsel to participate in this roving inquiry. This is about contempt, not giving them carte blanche to go attack our attorneys. It would be inappropriate for an interested party to go after their opponents. They're not neutral inquisitors. They have an interest in the underlying case. They hate these people. They're ACLU lawyers. So you have to accept this. The varied and serious constitutional errors committed by Judge Jeb requires immediate mandamus relief. You got to prevent serious and irreparable harm. We've explained this many times. It's clear and indisputable. And mandamus is appropriate for all of these reasons. This judge has gone off the rocker. So relief is warranted. So this court should grant this petition for a writ of mandamus and grant a stay because all of this is starting fresh on Monday, unless the Court of Appeals steps in and stops it. Signed by Tiberius Davis. Man, that's a heck of a name right there. Just like Kirk. And dealing with Boasberg is like the Kobayashi Maru, no doubt about it. So we, of course, are going to keep our eye on this one. But if we don't get a decision from the Court of Appeals, we are going to have some very interesting trial proceedings. Not really a trial, but kind of a trial, because the judge is hosting his own investigation in his courtroom, and he's probing to find evidence of criminality that then he can refer over to a prosecutor, and the whole thing's a scam. Now, meanwhile, our Congress is focused on music royalty rights and other things, and other not really useful things thus far, at least this week. So hopefully all of that big talk from Eric Schmidt and Marsha Blackburn and all the people who got spied on and had their non-disclosure orders approved by Judge Jeb, all of the people sitting around on the judiciary committees in the House and the Senate, like, I'm on the judiciary committee. This is your purview. You are a congressperson. Your check and balance is on the judiciary. Please impeach these judges. We, the American people, demand it. We're tired of these judges taking over our government. So Jim, Chuck, please start the proceedings. We'll keep our eye on this one, and we might have testimony coming out on Monday. All right, my friends, let's turn our attention to Fulton County and Big Fannie Willis, because here we go on this one. Fannie Willis in Fulton County now getting sued. We want those 2020 election records, and so does the United States of America. Harmeet, Dhillon and the Civil Rights Division dropping this one out of the Atlanta Division in federal court, U.S. of America, baby, as the plaintiffs suing the clerk of the courts for Fulton County as the defendant. Nathan Wade, Fannie Willis having a tough time because they, of course, made their entire careers off prosecuting the RICO defendants who were on the Trump campaign who challenged a rigged election. And now, if those records come out and it shows that their entire case was a fraud, they're not going to be happy about that. So here is what we've got. We'll come back to this complaint filed, but here's the announcement officially from the DOJ saying the Justice Department now sues 4 additional states. We've covered others before, California and other even counties, and 1 locality for failure to comply with federal election laws. Now, today, the Justice Department Civil Rights Division announced, boom, 4 states all getting sued: Colorado, Hawaii, Massachusetts, Nevada, for failure to produce their voter registration lists. They don't want anybody to see those lists because they're filled with illegals and dead people. This brings the Justice Department's nationwide total to 18. The Civil Rights Division is also suing 1 locality, Fulton County, Fannyland, for their 2020 records. Now, according to the lawsuits, we have a right to go get these things, and that's exactly what we're doing. So here is the one that got sent over to Fulton County, courtesy of the DOJ. They say, all right, you know the laws, Civil Rights Act of 1960? We have a sweeping obligation for all election officials, all, to preserve all records and papers that are a part of your job. It also grants the Attorney General, that's Pam Bondi, sweeping power to go get those records. So you have to hold them, and when Pam wants them, you have to give them. If we ask for them in writing, the law says under Title III, you got to turn those over. All we need is a written demand with a statement for the basis and the purpose. Now, if the custodian, this election official, to whom the written demand is made, if they refuse us, well, then what we can do is invoke a special statutory proceeding in which the courts play a limited role to go get those records. That's what we're doing now. The Attorney General may request a federal court issue an order directing the custodian to produce the records or else. Now, it's called a summary proceeding, and all that needs to be shown is the AG made a written request. I asked for it. You did not oblige. And that's it. I need an order from a court. The court doesn't adjudicate the factual foundation for, the sufficiency of, or the reason at all. If the Attorney General wants it, the judge doesn't get to say, well, I don't think you really need it. No, that's not how it works. I asked, they didn't give it. That's all you have to find. Then order them to give it. So they write, this court has jurisdiction under the law. Venue is appropriate in this location. We're in FANI land. Now, the plaintiff here is Pam Bondi. Shout out. The Attorney General has the authority to enforce and invoke these various statutes, including the National Voter Registration Act and the Help America Vote Act, NVRA and HAVA. Now, the defendant, Che Alexander, is sued in her official capacity. It's a female, Che. She's the person who is the custodian. She's got the files. Now, the defendant serves the Fulton County Clerk of the Courts, and here's some more background on this. Now, this arises after the Attorney General, Pam, started investigating FANI's county for failing to comply with the law. Congress empowered us to do this, and that's what we're doing. And the law says we're allowed to go in and get these things. So that's what we're doing. Now, here's what they did wrong. On July 30th, the State Election Board of Georgia passed a resolution calling upon the assistance of the AG to effect compliance with voting transparency. So Georgia comes and says, hey, Pam, can you help us? It's a disaster down here. We got a bunch of fannies running around here. On October 30th, Pam Bondi, this year, sent a demand letter to the Board of Registration and Elections, the Fulton County Board, saying, we want all of your records, so give them to us. Also sent over a subpoena. That was dated October 6th. It requested all used and void ballots, stubs of ballots, signature envelopes, corresponding envelope digital files, all from 2020 in Fulton County, FANI land, where they had that water main break at State Farm Arena. Remember that? Oh, no. The October 30th letter requested these, and we identified the purpose. We said, well, we want to see the records to see if you're in compliance with federal laws, obviously. The Attorney General also seeks to assist the state board in their transparency efforts as well. And so we sent a letter. We specifically cited transparency concerns as our basis. We said, hey, Fulton. The letter cited a November 7, 2024 letter from a board, and they explained back on November 7th that there were unexplained anomalies in vote tabulation and storage related to the 2020 election. You're kidding. Yeah, it was like 11,000, 12,000 votes. Not even a big number. They had to stop counting. There was water main breaks, all weird stuff. On November 14th, Fulton board sent a letter back. In the November 14th letter, Fulton said, well, physical ballots, stubs, and absentee ballot envelopes for the general election are in our possession. We have them. They're under seal. So we got them all, but you can't have them. The November 14th letter further cited and attached another letter from the clerk. The Fulton clerk stated, the records are under seal and they cannot be produced absent a court order. I said, okay. Then November 21, Pam this year, so not long ago, Pam sends another letter to the Fulton clerk saying, we're asking a second time. The letter again said, we're same reasons, same purposes, same authorities. Now, as of the filing of this complaint, Fulton has failed to respond to Pam. Che. So therefore, on November 21, we sent a letter over there for the documents. This was a demand. It followed the law. Now, as of the filing, we've gotten no response from them, obviously. Why would they give them the evidence that wrecks their entire lives? Wherefore, the United States now is asking this court to declare that FANI Land's refusal to provide these election records violates the law and order them to give us the files within 5 days or else. Sincerely, Brittany Bennett, U.S. DOJ, from the Civil Rights Division, in a nice filing. Fani Willis and Nathan Wade have blown out. Now, here's another one that went out to William Francis Galvin. Same type of thing. We'll go much faster on this one. Out of the District of Massachusetts. Same stuff. Title III. We're allowed to do this. You got to give us the records if we make a demand. Fast forwarding. We know who the states are. We know how the laws work. Let's see what the facts are alleging. They say, hey, we're an election assistance commission. We conduct voting surveys. A little different. And we've conducted a voting survey here And afterwards, we've sent a letter to Secretary Galvin in Massachusetts in July, seeking information about Massachusetts compliance. We asked them to provide us with a copy of its computerized voter registration list. Law says we need to see the list. We can see the list. They said no. They submitted a declaration. They said, oh, a spreadsheet. Like, I don't know. Where are we going to compile a spreadsheet? Like, are to like print a list? Do we even have a list? Do we even care about a list? We need 60 days to just hit export, file export. Here you go. The Attorney General, acting through her representative, sent a second letter, Pam, and that letter contained a written demand. Hey, we already asked you once for this. Give us the documents. We want all of it. Name, date of birth, social, driver's license number, blah, blah, blah. Now, the letter explained the following, and we're having a back and forth on this about what should be included. And it also made clear that we're going to have privacy. Okay. We're not going to disclose all of your voters publicly. We're the DOJ. You don't have to say we can't give it to you because of privacy concerns. You're the government. We're the government. You have privacy interests to protect. So do we. We're on the same team. Give us the files. But they said no. Then another letter. The voting section sent another letter, an email, and the department got no further response. Then on December 4th, we contacted Tasserini by phone, and Tasserini on the phone said, sorry, we're not giving you our files from Massachusetts. What are they doing? It's like open insubordination. I don't know how much closer you can get to a cold civil war when there's just state rebellion, essentially, with federal law in multiple arenas, multiple domains, elections, ICE law enforcement, criminal law enforcement, handing out driver's licenses, spending your taxpayer dollars on free education, free healthcare, everything for illegals. Can't even get voting rights. States are doing whatever they want. And our federal government's like, okay, I guess they're okay. So we're suing now, which is good, but it's like, you've got to get to 18 states who are in open rebellion to the federal government. So then on August 14th, Pam, acting through her representative, sent a written demand to him. The written demand contained a statement. He has officially refused to provide the records. And so we say he's an open refusal, again, in violation of the law. So we ask you, court, order him to give us the files, okay? We are not going to spread them around. Signed by David Vanderberg on behalf of Eric Neff, over there, who is in the voting section for the DOJ. So that's happening, and there's other lawsuits that are flying out there. And I thought they were going to be more of the same, but let's actually just go check out what Colorado looks like too, to see what's going on over there, where they have Tina Peters in prison. So same background here, 8 pages. Let's go to the facts and see what Colorado, what kind of problems they are getting into right here. So the Attorney General received a complaint alleging non-compliance from Leaky Jenna Griswald. Wow, who leaked her BIOS passwords all over the internet. Everybody saw her passwords. Nobody wanted to see her passwords, believe me, but she just leaked them out all over the place. Like, here, look at my passwords. Like, no, Jenna, keep that to yourself. Nobody wants to see them. But they still published them on the website, and everybody was horrified. So then she got embarrassed, and basically the day before the election took place, this last one, she deployed like a SWAT team of election riggers to go out and update the BIOS passwords in all of the machines, which you should, if you're going to be manipulating the voting machines that are in production, you should at least take them out of service so that you could revalidate them, right? To make sure that nobody perverted them, just like you would do in the standard operating procedure before an election. You don't put the machine out, then go break all of the seals after it's been validated to change the software days before the election so that nobody can come revalidate it and then run the election on them. That's exactly what she did, though. She's not in jail. Tina Peters is. So Pam sent a letter saying, we're getting complaints from Leaky Jenna Griswold's office about the fact she's not following duties. On May 12th, Bondi sent a letter to Leaky Griswold seeking information about her compliance with federal law. Now, the letter requested copies of and certification that no record required for preservation has been deleted, destroyed, or altered. The May 12th letter also requested that Colorado provide all statutes, regs, written guidance, internal policy, database user manuals, and all of the other procedures put in place in Colorado. And this is where a lot of the rigging occurs, okay? We saw this in Michigan with Jocelyn Benson, who was encouraging people in the manuals to just accept ballots that came in, because in the instruction manual, the law didn't say this, but she would put it in the manual for the poll workers. If you get a ballot, you are to presume that the signature is valid. There's a presumption of validity. She put that in the rules. There was that not in the law anywhere, which is essentially saying you don't check signatures. If there's a presumption of validity, then you're not checking it. Just a sneaky way to do it. So she got sued. Of course, the Republicans caught that in the manuals and said, you can't train your poll workers to not check signatures. You cheating. And got sued. And this is the battle that goes on, round and around we go. So it's set out in the Colorado procedures. Give us your procedures. She says, no, that's how I rig the elections. The May letter requested that information be provided within 14 days. Griswold did not even respond. She said, what are they going to do? Pam, what are you going to do to me? Nothing. On December 1, attorney Eric Neff followed up by email to Griswold. Said, we want your data. The December 1 email said, hey, the United States is prepared at this early stage to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the state of Colorado about sharing non-public unredacted voter lists. I have attached the memo of understanding, which we believe cures all potential concerns that a state might rightfully raise about a citizen's private data. Well, they don't want, their concern is about the fact you're going to get non-citizens' private data. People who are not citizens are going to be in that list. On December 3rd, Griswold responded, hey, we received your request, Griswold. We will not be producing unredacted voter files or signing the MOU. What a bee, man. Wow. So they say, all right, well, we're going to sue you. So we sent a written demand and it explained everything. Griswold said, I'm not giving you the files. Just get bent. And so now we're just going to, I guess, have to eat it. We're going to sue. We'll see what the courts say. But now we're asking the courts declare that Griswold's refusal to release the records violates the law. Order Leaky Griswold to provide the AG with a copy of all these things, including full name, date of birth. They don't want you to see any of this, because if you can see it, woo, those lists are going to be very, very problematic. Another one from Brittany Bennett, trial attorney, Civil Rights Division for the DOJ. So Leaky Jenna Griswold is being very obstinate as usual. And that's about what we would expect. But here was Harmeet Dhillon talking about this. She said, states that fail to maintain accurate voter rolls not only do a disservice to their constituents, they don't care about their constituents at all. They care about their illegals, but are refusing to abide by federal law. The DOJ and the Civil Rights Division remain committed to election integrity, all 50 states, no exceptions at all. From Harmeet.
It is a little disappointing, the number of red state secretaries of state who've called my boss, called the White House, tried to go over my head, and asked that they not have to provide this information. You got to ask yourself why, Rob. I mean, it seems to me like the obvious reason is they haven't done their work and they don't want everyone to see that. A lot of these red state officials can be kind of squishy and maybe aren't as committed to election integrity as others. But regardless, they're all going to have to comply. I just got word from Georgia's Brad Raffensperger today that he's not going to comply with this requirement. And so, you know, litigation is the next step there. And so Alaska has also said they're not going to comply. So we're going to march through and cover all of the 50 states. And so we've got, you showed some of the data there. You're going to see some more lawsuits coming in the immediate future, perhaps.
Good. Let's go, man. We really appreciate Harmeet Dhillon. It's like between her and Tulsi Gabbard, we could use some more of them. So that is Harmeet. Lots of lawsuits flying out there. And why, oh, why do they not want to disclose the lists? We know why. Because the lists are completely broken. You know how hard it is to maintain a list of anything, like a long-term list over a number of years. Think about your business. Like, oh, like we have like a checkout sheet or something. Like, check out the book here. Just write your name down. Every time anyone tries that, it's a disaster. So now we're supposed to believe that all of our states are like, no, our lists are perfect. There's no illegal aliens on there. There's nobody who's a non-resident who's on here, who's moved out of state. Everybody on here is alive. Everybody on here is perfectly supposed to be on the list, okay? So just don't ask us any questions about it. They all freak out because our lists are perverted. They say, well, there was no rigging of the election because the entire apparatus is rigged, right? The lists are rigged. So you don't need the machines to be hacked because you just go vote with the fake ballots that are real, that are sent to the dead guy. So it's a disaster, and we're happy that Harmeet is all over it. And of course, the blue states, Leaky, Jenna, Griswald, and the rest of them will fight this tooth and nail because that's their epicenter of power. Control the list, control the country. Not for long. Shout out to Harmeet for digging in to this one. All right, now, my friends, one final update on the day. And then we'll hear from you. President Trump issues a pardon for Tina Peters, but the Democrats in Colorado are already saying it doesn't matter a bit. Of course, the president can issue a federal pardon. Does that carry over to state-level charges? That will remain to be seen. But as it stands, Colorado right now is saying, we're not honoring it. We're not letting her out. Good luck, good riddance. We don't give a crap what the president says, but we'll see what comes next. But here Trump posted this today. You know, for years, Democrats ignored violent and vicious crime of all shapes, sizes, colors, and types. Violent criminals who should have been locked up were allowed to attack again. Democrats were far too happy to let in the worst from the worst of the worst countries so they could rip off American taxpayers. Democrats only think there is one crime, not voting for them. Instead of protecting Americans and their tax dollars, Democrats chose instead to prosecute anyone they can find that wanted safe and secure elections. Democrats have been relentless in their targeting of Tina Peters, a patriot who simply wanted to make sure that our elections were fair and honest. Tina is sitting in Colorado prison for the crime of demanding honest elections. Today, I am granting Tina a full pardon for her attempts to expose voter fraud in the rigged 2020 presidential election. All of that, of course, happened in Colorado. Leaky Jenna Griswald, who posted the BIOS passwords for all of the voting machines on the internet, who then rigged the voting machines days before the election took place without giving anybody from any parties an opportunity to actually validate those machines to make sure that they were properly situated for service in public. No consequences from her at all. And now Tina Peters continues the fight. Now, her lawyer, this guy, said Tina Peters, his name is Peter Tickton, he said she deserves justice. And before Trump came down today, he said, I notified Trump that we need a presidential pardon and why this is necessary to expose this election misconduct. What happened to her was a travesty, and it's time to set that right. So there's a strategy behind this. So hopefully we get a pardon, and then Tickton is on this and has a strategy about how maybe he can apply that in Colorado. But he says, Mr. President, I know you're aware that Tina Peters is a 70-year-old Gold Star mother and that her trial was a travesty, where she was not permitted to even raise her defenses. Now, I could go on as to her character, but I prefer to take this opportunity to explain why Tina Peters is a critical and necessary witness to the most serious crime perpetrated against the United States in history. They stole our whole country for 4 years. This is why Colorado's and their rigged electors don't want her released. Dominion and its employees operated on a legal operation on our soil, which was supported and controlled by foreign actors. The Colorado Secretary of State, Leaky Jenna Griswald, aided and abetted Dominion and foreign countries in targeting Mesa County clerk called Tina Peters. First, Dominion directed Griswald to assist in deleting all data from Dominion brand election equipment by ordering a statewide trusted build. Secondly, Dominion demanded criminal charges be brought against clerk Peters when it discovered that she had the only copy of the 2020 election conducted on the Dominion brand equipment. Clerk Peters and her copy of data was lawful. She was entitled to image and preserve this data pursuant to the contract that Dominion signed with her as a clerk of Mesa County. And moreover, she was required to preserve the evidence of the election for 22 months under federal law. So she did all of that. Her lone copy of these records is essential. And as explained, She is a necessary and material witness. She can testify as to chain of custody, corroborate recent responses, and more. And that all came out from Peter Tickton, her lawyer. So then Trump got that and issued the pardon. Then they came back out after the pardon dropped and said the following. Says, my team and I, and all these people, including Tina herself, are beyond grateful to Trump for doing what is right. Governor Polis and Secretary of State Jenna Griswald, they claim that Tina Peters belongs in prison. However, she's actually a political prisoner. Why else would a 70-year-old lady convicted for a victimless white-collar crime be held in maximum security unit of a prison where she has the smallest cell of about 7 square feet for her cellmate and her next to their beds? It's to punish her because she almost exposed them, or did. In fact, since midday on Monday, she has been in the hole, solitary confinement for a 70-year-old woman. Such a cruel punishment that it causes the most extreme monsters to behave themselves and comply with the rules. Yet she has been in solitary, not for doing anything wrong, just for her perceived protection. Now, the governor said that he will abide by the judgment of the courts. However, the process of litigation takes time, and Tina Peters needs to be released while the legal issues are being resolved. The governor has no way to know which way the courts will decide the issue of whether Trump has the right to pardon prisoners who were convicted of state offenses. And these state offenses involved federal elections. So is it subject matter over which the presidential pardon should carry weight? So it's debatable. Now, as such, he has no right to hold her. It is not an option for him to hold someone in prison when he cannot know if she would be released or held. That issue must always be determined in favor of the person incarcerated. Saying, he has no right to keep a person in prison because she may belong there. If he does, he is at the very least imprisoning a pardoned lady. It's a serious ramification. Now, the fact of the matter is that those in power, like Governor Polis and Griswald, Leaky Griswald, become lulled in their echo chambers to be blind to the fact that the situation is changing. Today, these folks are in charge, but tomorrow they're going to be held accountable. And this is especially true for Jenna. She is the one who wiped and rewrote the hard drives of the Dominion hard drives when she had the trusted build installed. Jenna, man, ooh. So instead of fighting to have Tina Peters in prison, Jenna should realize that her time is limited before she may be in handcuffs herself. Let's go. After all, her deletion of the hard drives was a violation of federal law. It is so ironic, that's why Tina is in jail, because she did these things. Not Tina, Jenna. When the one who destroyed evidence is taking a harsh position that the one who is preserving the evidence remain in prison. If they have any smarts at all, they would stop their silly game of wrongfully imprisoning an innocent woman for whom half this country are celebrating the pardon President Trump granted from the Tickton Law Group. Nice statement there. Yeah, Jenna is, in my opinion, a criminal. We saw what she did in the days right before the election, and she did it without even telling anybody. She's a scammer. Now, here is one of these people from Colorado. This is A.G. Weiser. Kyle Clark is a reporter out there in Colorado. And he asked the Attorney General, are you going to release Tina Peters here, Weiser?
A.G. Weiser, one final question for you here. Practically speaking, what happens if representatives of Tina Peters and or the president show up at the state prison in Pueblo tonight or tomorrow and say Tina Peters is coming with us? Will she be released by the state of Colorado while this plays out?
No, there's no legal authority for any federal government action to take a prisoner who's in state custody, lawfully having been tried, convicted, and sentenced. This is an important principle of our Constitution. And everyone who says they care about the rule of law, about public safety and our Constitution needs to care about this issue. Ben Franklin said when he left the Constitutional Convention, we have a republic as long as we can keep it.
Oh,
this is
spare
one of those
me.
Moments.
Yeah, did they say anything about protecting your Secretary of State who rigs election machines in the Constitution too? You want to repeat that one to us too? Because that's who you're protecting. You're the Attorney General, and you're looking the other way at Leaky Jenna Griswold, the Secretary of State, who's like one office over from you, who did all of those things to rig the machines. Whether they actually caused an outcome difference, I don't know. But she violated the law, violated policy, leaked the BIOS passwords, and then rigged everything to fix her own mistake. and there were no consequences for that. Instead, the one woman who is preserving the materials, chronicling the rigging, you're making her the scapegoat because you are part of the Democratic power structure. So spare me your lectures about Ben Franklin, okay? Here, Griswald came out, Leaky Jenna. Today, her office said, Trump posted Donald Trump. She's such a bitter, ugly hack, isn't she? Today, Donald Trump, it's President Trump, Leaky Jenna, you disgusting creature, posted to True Social that he's pardoning Tina Peters. Secretary of, she'll use her title, but it's really Leaky Secretary, has issued the following statement. Tina Peters was convicted by a jury of her peers for state crimes in state court. Trump has no constitutional authority to pardon her. His assault is not just on our democracy, but on states' rights and the American Constitution, which she doesn't even capitalize. She sucks, man. Jenna Griswald is one of the worst people in the country, and I cannot wait until, hopefully, as Peter Tickton says, there are consequences for her as well. Now, there's another investigation that is underway. Ron Johnson, senator from Wisconsin, is digging into a problematic Wisconsin judge. And he sent a letter from the chairman on Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations over to Pam Bondi. And Ron Johnson is saying, Pam, we need you to look into another case of somebody else who's being railroaded, called Jim Troupis, a former judge facing criminal charges because he represented President Trump in 2020. Chairman Johnson sent a letter over to Pam. He says, Pam, I need you to look into this because this is a scam too. All right, dear Attorney General Bondi, from Ron Johnson. There are recent reports and unsealed court documents have raised some serious concerns here about judicial misconduct relating to the treatment of this guy called Jim Troupis, former circuit judge who now faces criminal charges in Wisconsin. Now, Mr. Troupis represented President Trump in Wisconsin back in the 2020 election, and because of his role as his attorney, his life has been upended by unceasing political persecutions currently led by the Wisconsin Attorney General, who I think is Dana Nessel. They all create these little Spice Girl teams. It's like Jenna Griswold, Jocelyn Benson, Dana Nessel, Arizona, Katie Hobbs. Yeah, Chris Mays. Yeah, like the Powerpuff Girls. Mr. Troupis received a presidential pardon in November. He faces 11 charges in Wisconsin for efforts to file alternate electors. Now, he fittingly described this anti-Trump lawfare that's coming against him as the Jack Smith case that's in Wisconsin, saying they're going to try Trump in absentia, go after everybody else. It's not over. The 2020 litigation stuff is not over. It's still going on. In a recently unsealed motion, Mr. Troupis' attorney called Joseph Bugny, he identified even more evidence, underscoring the blatant political bias against his client. Now, following this judge and his order, this judge called John Highland wrote an order that denied Mr. Troupis' motions. He said, I need you to dismiss my case, court. Here's why. Then the order came down, but the defense team said, this is not, something's off here. Did Judge Highland write this? In a letter to the court, Mr. Bugny wrote, well, the first and most emphatic reaction to the order was, I'm paraphrasing, the defense lawyer said, I'm in front of these judges all the time. Judge Highland did not write this. I have read his writing for decades, and most of this isn't his. Okay, this is where experience as a defense attorney or as any attorney comes in. A lot of the time you can kind of just, people, I've got 30 years of experience. What, losing cases? Great, I don't care. So no one cares. But sometimes it matters. Like these little things matter. I've been reading this guy for decades, for 20 years. He didn't write this. Mr. Bugny came to believe that another judge did. A retired judge called Frank Remington was the actual author. According to the defense lawyer, Bugny, he said Judge Remington was, to put it mildly, not a fan of my client when they were in practice or when they were colleagues on the bench. And Judge Remington retired from the bench before the motions were ripe when we filed our reply. Now, Ron Johnson is writing this, according to the unsealed motion to disqualify Judge Highland and the judiciary, the defense team consulted with a forensic linguistics expert from Georgetown University. Okay, they went and got an expert who analyzed the order as well as the documents written by these two judges. In the report provided to the court, the expert concluded it is highly likely from a linguistic perspective that this order was written by Remington. Okay, Judge Highland signed it, but he didn't write it. Copying, stealing someone else's work product. Given this finding, Mr. Bugni said it is improper for a private citizen, even one who is a former judge, to have a role in deciding the case. Some old hack judge who had a grudge against this guy usurped his client's rights and threatened to derail justice. So the defense attorney concluded the only way to ensure the appearance of impropriety is you got to get a different judge. On December 9th, Judge Highland denied the request to move the case. He said, the court is satisfied that no person other than the assigned staff attorney and I had a hand in drafting this. This court finds no ground to disqualify. So Judge Highland got busted. He's like, I wrote it. It's difficult to understand how Judge Highland can make an impartial decision when he's lying about having somebody else write his opinions. Therefore, I respectfully request the DOJ investigate this, courtesy of Ron Johnson, over to Pam Bondi. And we've got just scumbag judges who are writing opinions for other judges. So you can see we got many people in positions of power like Jenna Griswald and the Attorney General Weiser and all these people. Oh, a republic, madam, if you can keep it quiet, okay? You're the one who is ignoring a criminal wandering around in your own Capitol building called Leaky Jenna Griswald. So we've got our work cut out for us, but we're going to continue to expose these people. And hopefully the people of Colorado wake up and realize that they don't need to be governed by people who love illegal aliens more than they love themselves, their own constituents. And Jenna Griswald faces consequences for the unlawful attacks on Tina Peters and many others. We'll keep our eye on this one, my friends, and see what Peter Tickton has in plan in here to get her out of custody, hopefully sooner rather than later. Thank you for subscribing as we keep our eyes on this one. All right, my beautiful friends. What a lovely stream it has been, minus Tina Peters is still in custody. We talked about Judge Jeb, who is throwing a temper tantrum over contempt proceedings, saying he's going to hold a full-blown mini trial coming up starting Monday, dragging all these DOJ people in to come in and testify. Pam Bondi saying we are immediately appealing this, asking for a mandamus from the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals, saying Boasberg not only is wrong on this, but he should also be removed from the case entirely. Kick him off. He's acting a fool. And Congress right now, I don't know what they're doing. I don't know if they're worried about, artist royalties or whatever, but haven't seen much action on them in terms of impeachment. We then talked about Fulton County and FANI land and how they're now being sued along with a bunch of other states for failing to disclose their voter files, which they're required to do under federal law. Jenna Griswald, the Leaky secretary from Colorado, also refusing to turn the records over. And out of Massachusetts, same thing. All of them just in open insubordination of the federal government, handing out taxpayer dollars for illegal healthcare, illegal money for housing, illegal education benefits getting paid out to illegals. Everybody is just acting however they want to at the state level. Federal government comes in, knocks on the door. They say, no, we're a sanctuary city. Get out of here, you bigots. And until recently, that's been the pattern. But Harmeet says it's not going to be the pattern forever. We're suing. We're up to 18 states now. Hopefully we start to get some wins. Then we talked about Tina Peters. She's officially got a pardon. The defense attorneys representing her are saying this is a victory. They're going to try to make the argument that the presidential federal pardon applies to her because maybe her criminal case at the state level involved a federal election, right? There will be some arguments that they'll make to say that it should apply, and we'll probably see some new filings in Colorado to that effect very soon. And this may go all the way up to the Supreme Court, and they can decide that for us as well. So we got Tina Peters. We also saw Ron Johnson is sending a letter into to Pam Bondi about Wisconsin judges who are apparently too dumb to write their own opinions. So they have to let their retired judges write them for them. But more pathetic behavior out of the judiciary that we will keep our eyes on. But now, my friends, it is time to hear from you. Thank you for being here. Happy Friday. Hope your week was absolutely outstanding and you accomplished every single thing you set your mind to. Let's see what you have to say about all this. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining our channel. Thank you for subscribing, liking the video, and all of the things. We very much appreciate that. Let's see what we've got cooking over here. We got Donut, John, Muffin Rando clipping for us on this afternoon. What a lovely day. We got some graduations too. Well, that is lovely. Hey, it is Friday, baby. That's Will Ferrell in that one movie where he's an elf. What's going on? It is Friday. Hey, Nana Dawn. My youngest daughter graduates from Texas State tomorrow. I am so very proud of her. Nana Dawn. Hey, congratulations to your daughter, your youngest daughter. Beautiful young gal, class of 2025, Texas State. And what a nice photo, too. Look at this, like, bridge and a stream. It's like out of a novel or something. It's amazing. All right, so congratulations on that. Congratulations. So hopefully she's got something fun planned for her future. Very nice. Another graduation. Hey, caught up on the morning stream after enjoying my son's Masters of Education commencement. Shout out to your boy. What a handsome young man. University of North Texas. Wait a minute here. Where did she come from? Texas State. North Texas, Texas State. Huh. So first of all, Nana Dawn, is your daughter single? And rub some dirt on it. Is your son single? Because they're apparently right next to each other. She's in Texas. He's just north of there in North Texas. Maybe we have a little match made in heaven out here. And they're both graduating so they can kick off their lives together. Hey, another graduation? Oh, no, this is your boy. Masters of Education. Great photos, man. Great photos. Rub some dirt on it, man. Thank you for sharing it. Congrats to all of our graduating students out there. Is that happening right now? It's December. I thought those were in May. Kind of winter graduations. Awesome. Congrats out there. Rub some dirt on it. Great photos. Congrats to your boy. War crime enjoyer. They have to get jobs now. War crime enjoyer. Thousands of American dads and sons have had their wives, moms, sisters assaulted and killed by illegals. And those who fund and entice and shield them, I'm actually shocked that American men haven't gotten their justice or revenge on those responsible. Yeah, it's honestly pretty wild. I think about that a lot. It's like, what if we actually had testosterone in America? Would we just sit around and let all this crap happen? I thought about that a lot. You kind of get disappointed about a lot. One thing that was really disappointing to me was back during COVID when I thought, oh, I'm a defense attorney. I'm in a community of all defense attorneys. We can't stand the government, right? We push back on the government every time, every turn, even if it's not even legitimate. You know, you're just like, nope, I don't care. I hate you. And once COVID hit, I felt almost honestly like betrayed by some of the strongest defense attorneys who just like buckled and cowered and said, we got to shut the courts down. We got to shut the jails down. We can't go out. Everybody mask up, and like all these listserv emails. You're just like, what the hell? Some of the most principled people were just like, oh, government says lock down everything. You go, what are you even like? You made all these statements about how we're the last bastion against a corrupt government, all these things. And then they all just buckled and bend the knee. It's like, it's very, we didn't, of course. We started watching The Watchers, and I got scolded by a bunch of these pathetic lawyers. You're wrecking your reputation in Arizona by talking about COVID. Okay. So yeah, it's out there, and it's a strange thing. Many people won't even speak. Okay. I'm not calling for violence. I don't want any violence, but many people won't even speak about it because they're afraid of being labeled a bigot or xenophobic or something. Just use your voice. You don't have to get violent. Just use your voice. When somebody's like, well, we should accept ICE is kidnapping people off the street, just say, shut up. What are you talking about? Explain yourself. Do you know anything about due process? Right? Get educated on these things. And don't be mean like I was just there, but you get the point. It's like, just push back on this stuff. We don't have to live like this. Hey, Jonah Finn, 9 months as a membo. Is don't recall and 5A and executive privilege Bo's foes. Is I don't recall Fifth Amendment, like right to remain silent, and executive privilege, Bo's foes. Oh, this is, man, that you squeezed a lot into one short super chat. 9 months as a membo, Jonathan. That's a great, man, you squeezed a lot. So is Boasberg's foe, is his foible going to be the DOJ staff taking the stand and saying, I don't recall. They can pull the Mark Elias, like we saw in the Michael Sussman trial. I don't recall all of a sudden. Good comment, Jonathan. Thanks for being here. Happy baby to us. One old guy's opinions. says, man, Judge Jeb, a.k.a. Carl Slingblade Childers Boasberg, is a psychotic lefty. Truly a constitutional crisis created by a judge with a God complex, and many of them have that. A God complex. And the appeals court, SCOTUS, and Congress needs to step in and spank this judge's little derriere, politically speaking, legally speaking. Thank you, one old guy, for the nice dono and for being here. Happy Friday. Hey, Ed, Mo70 of. Can the illegals attorney be sanctioned for filing in D.C. knowing Texas was the proper venue? No, I mean, Boasberg would be the one doing the sanctioning. He's indulging them. He's like, no, actually, I'm going to give you a full opportunity to go and attack them and cross-examine them and ask them anything you want because we know that you hate them anyways, right? It's like wild, carte blanche. If attorney-client privilege is breached, can government officials invoke Fifth Amendment rights and refuse to testify? Yeah, I think they could. Yeah, I think Fifth Amendment would override anything. Like if they're concerned that they're going to be prosecuted for criminal contempt, I think, yeah, you just invoke, nope. On advice of counsel, I'm invoking my Fifth Amendment privilege. And just invoke. And I think that's actually what our friend Jonah Finn was also saying, right? Don't recall executive privilege. I think he's already said, maybe he hasn't gotten so far to executive privilege. He's gotten to attorney-client privilege, but okay, he smashes attorney-client privilege. And you just say, I'm invoking my rights, I don't recall, and executive privilege. You got this 3-part attack or defense strategy. Just invoke any one of those. Use them interchangeably. Have some fun with it. What do you think it's going to be? I don't recall, Fifth Amendment or executive privilege. Just pick one. Hey, this one. Yeah, good question. So even if they show up, we might not get some, good stuff out of there, but then he'll probably hold that against them. Say, well, since you didn't testify, I don't know what standard he's going to apply, like a civil standard so he can use their silence against them, or a criminal standard like criminal contempt. It's Boasberg, who knows? Hey, one old guy, judge does an investigation, compelling testimony. That would be a clear violation of the Fifth Amendment, which I think they could still invoke it, right? He can order them to testify. But then he'll hit him with that. He'll say, they wouldn't even answer questions. And the media will say, the DOJ attorneys invoke their Fifth Amendment rights, and they'll say they're criminals. They won't even answer questions about their conduct. Whether state or not, enough to be impeachment due to the constitutional crisis created by Judge Slingblade Boasberg. Yes, I mean, they were talking about impeaching Boasberg not long ago. They said that they were going to, there are already resolutions that have been introduced, but they've gotten no momentum. Don't know what Mike Johnson is doing other than nothing. This old guy says, Pam Bondi could charge Boasberg under various laws: deprivation of rights under color of law, obstruction of congressional proceedings, conspiracy against rights. Yeah. Will she? No. B.H. Williams. Sounds like Boasberg wants to be a French judge. A judge de instructions opens the investigations, gathers incriminating and exculpatory evidence, interrogates, orders searches, and indicts. There's a reason over here we separated all these roles out. Yeah, he thinks he's like Judge Dredd. Judge, jury, and executioner. Hey, one old guy says, impeaching Dem-appointed federal judges by Republicans would never happen. But if Dems do it, Republicans would jump on the bandwagon to impeach Dem-appointed federal judges because they're wussies. You probably have more likelihood that a Republican would join the Dems to impeach a Republican judge, more so than a Democrat judge. They're so spineless. It really boggles the mind how pathetic most of our Congress people are. One old guy, hey, correction, Republican appointed judges would be impeached by Dems and Republicans would, yes, exactly. That's exactly right. So you even got it. Yeah. Yeah, they would. They'd say, look how noble I am. I can cross the aisle and call out corrupt judges. Just me. Hey, easy. Call Pam, have her have a U.S. attorney offer her a Fed witness deal. Take it to a friendly judge to write up the order and have the U.S. Marshals take her into protective custody. So there was a request earlier this year to actually take her into federal detention, and I don't think that's been honored, but they did send a letter over to the prisons in Colorado, and they said, can send her over to us, but I don't think they want to do that. They probably want her to die in there because she knows too much. One old guy says, indict Crazy Eyes. If that happens, then she'll face consequences. Yeah, so, yeah, hopefully Jenna does face consequences for her criminality if she committed crimes. E. Texley says, the DOJ so badly needs a Ken Paxton in the AG seat. Paxton's not a perfect man, but darn, the guy's a powerhouse of an AG. Maybe Paxton can unhorse Cornyn, and then in a couple of months after taking office, Trump can nominate Paxton for AG. Well, then we have an empty Senate seat. So then you just appoint, maybe somebody could be appointed there. How does it work in Texas? Would Abbott appoint somebody to fill in Paxton's seat? Paxton is a fighter for sure. He's got that kind of pitbull mentality that I'm not sure Pam has. E. Texley says, really absurd when we realize that we don't vote for POTUS and VP candidates. We vote for sworn electors. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, we have a system that creates some distance. We didn't want a direct democracy because democracies lead to a tyranny of the majority, which is a big problem. Jim tells you, hey, welcome to Shout Out Supporter, Jim. Appreciate that, my friend. Check out the stream from this morning. We had a great members only stream. We talked about all sorts of fun stuff. One old guy says, when did the wussification of the U.S. begin? Man, lots of, depends on how you define that. Wussification. Lots of different things you could point to for that. Gosh, I don't know. So many answers. Will Crump, after just greenlighting Boasberg to start his contempt campaign again, will the DC appellate court stop him this time? They overturned the 3 judges. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I hope that they do reverse him. And I tend to think that they will. Like, I don't think that we're going to have actual proceedings on Monday. But we could. I mean, we really could. And I almost see this as parallel to what we've seen the prior administrations. You need to create a trap that you can then use to siphon off energy for the rest of the administration. They did that with Russia collusion. So now this would be criminal contempt, Judge Boasberg, they'd appoint, special prosecutor, special counsel, and the whole thing will start all over again, which is why it's a nefarious thing that's happening. So yeah, not good. All right, my friends, let's see. We got some other comments over on locals on the day. Hey, Glenn Croy, bringing in 10 new members. Amazing of you for doing that. Thank you, Glenn. And members will also be back tomorrow, Saturday, for our members only Saturday stream, baby. We love those. Sergeant Bob says, hey, what's going on, Sergeant Bob? I love this one, this GIF right here, too. And then, boom. Yeah, that's a good one, man. I like that one, Jigam. I think I have that saved. Sergeant Bob, Miss Lucky and I are back from our 1-week visit to her son and his bride in Maryland. We all recognized the futility of political discussions and had a nice visit. We toured the Capitol with the House Rep aide and even saw the original Supreme Court chambers. We went to the Washington Monument and up to the top, climbed the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. The privately run Spy Museum was great. Do not miss that. I heard that too. We had a friend come by who also said the same thing. Avoid DC rush hour traffic at all costs. It is terrible. The drivers there make Phoenix look real good. A nice house in DC will run you about 1.5 mil. It will be up to my tech team, Miss Lucky, to send photos. Glad to be back. Sergeant Bob, Miss Lucky, great to see you. I got your guys' letter, and you guys sent a very nice letter about all your affairs and everything you're doing. I thought it was awesome. Thank you for including us in that update. And sounds like a great trip. Yeah, I was in DC over the summer, and traffic was rough. It took me an hour to get from Reagan Airport down over to Capitol Hill. It's ridiculous. I'm like, this place sucks. Now we're thinking of moving there. Anyways, Tobo, Rob, I think Georgia is more than just a political thing. I think Raffensperger got bribed. He's hiding evidence. The D's are more about lust for power, I think. I think it's time to use Article 4, Section 4, and do what? Declare an invasion of bad politicians and throw them out from Tobo? I like it. Elliot, hey, briefs got submitted to the Supreme Court. Oh, Elliot, I think I saw your email on this too. Yeah, so these were the original briefs on the Wong Kim Ark case, which is pretty wild. This is wild. So this stuff is cool. I've not seen these before. So the seminal birthright citizenship case is called Wong Kim Ark. And these were the briefs that were submitted, back in the 1800s. Look at this. Super cool. Elliot, Doc Master in the house. And this is not the decision, but this is just the brief. Amazing. Super cool. Yeah, very cool. It'd be fun to get some of the original prints of those, you know, like prints in the reporters. Yeah, what's up? This old guy. Hey, on your question about Texas, empty Senate seats are appointed by the governor until the next special election in May or November, depending on which special date allows sufficient time for filing. Yeah, so like you have this hard-fought election and you get Ken Paxton in there, then you just yank him out and got to do it all over again, was the idea. Glenn Croy, we got Curly Green Leaf. What's that? Dragnet is here. Colby Newlick, what's up, Blue Sky? Hazardous FDM, David Dixon, welcome. Wico, Maureen Cullen, what's up, Spencer Harmont? OPSEC Lulls in the house. All gifted membos, and what's up, Doan? Thanks, Glenn Croy, for bringing in 10 new membo friends. Can't wait to meet everybody tomorrow on the Saturday stream. LZ says, issue a subpoena for Tina Peters to appear for a deposition concerning federal election fraud in D.C., then make excuses for not sending her back. You just don't have to respond to the letters. Yeah, they don't ever, you know, like FANI didn't respond to the letters. So then Colorado and Jenna Griswald, where's Tina Peters? Well, just don't respond for quite a while. Hey, Quadcam, can't Trump preemptively pardon everyone to block Judge Boasberg? Or would he still be able to at least carry out his investigation anyways? Yeah, I think Trump could pardon them. But I think like a lot of this is coming down to who's at fault ultimately. Like, I don't think that Kristi Noem's going to go to jail or these people will go to jail, but it's about the political consequences of being found in contempt. So certainly if it escalates to that, like if Kristi Noem's held in contempt, Trump can just come out and, you know, pardon her. But I think he's still making the argument that he's going to get to the bottom of it. I think that he would say that a contempt order, even if it has no effect, is not moot. So he could still proceed with the investigation even if there was a pardon, because the case is still active. And so he's trying to figure out I think he's dead wrong, you know, through and through. Like, he doesn't have jurisdiction over the case. So hopefully the Court of Appeals settles that and this is all moot. But yeah, I mean, the criminal referral for contempt would be for federal contempt. So I think Trump could pardon them. And I'm not worried about their long-term criminality, but you know, if a federal judge comes back down and holds Trump in contempt, then, you know, that's going to give him a basis for impeachments. And once Democrats win, maybe the midterms, if that happens, sorry to be so black pill on that, but if they start their impeachment proceedings, then they would use that as a basis to hold hearings and issue their own subpoenas from their own select committees. So, you know, it'll just be bedlam, and he's just setting the foundation for it right now. But we'll see what the courts say about that. Elliot, Doc Master, you're amazing. Elliot, another one. An order just dropped. In this case, is this the Mandamus case? Did this just drop today? All right, so thank you for that one. We got this one coming from Londo. Says, this does not read well. These are lyrics. Sounds amazing. This is from Keith Lancaster's a cappella. A very good pensive song. A very good pensive song. We Are One by Keith Lancaster. Sounds awesome, Londo. Amy Ann, I went to the University of North Texas for a semester. It was called North Texas State University back then. They changed the name the year after I left. So North Texas State changed their name. Unbelievable. Why would they do such a thing? All right, so let's see. What case was that? Was Elliot just sharing with us the update? Phil Moore. What's up, Phil Moore? You are amazing. Phil, I think you are amazing. Thank you for sending that one in. Yeah, amazing. Phil Moore, you're amazing. So I think that order from Elliot was, in fact, the order that just dropped. And let's see what it says here. So this says, upon consideration, this is for our first segment, the emergency motion for a stay. It is hereby ordered that Jeb's order be administratively stayed pending further order of the court. The purpose of this stay is to allow us to decide on Mandamus. So it's an administrative stay. So it sounds like what's happening on Monday will not be happening. So that's great news. So they came in and, you know, maybe they come back down and more permanently adjust this order, but an administrative stay granted today. So great news. That's really great news. And thank you for sharing that one as we were live, man. Elliot, Dockmaster. U.S. Court of Appeals. There's the official order. That's great news. That's great news. Judge Jeb Boasberg slapped down again. Sheesh. All right, so Dockmaster Elliot, my friends, thank you for flagging that for us 15 minutes ago. Just came skidding in here for a Friday afternoon. We appreciate it. So good news. That whole first segment sounds like we're not going to have hearings on Monday, which is great news. And it's temporary, so we'll see if that changes in any way, shape, or form. But great news. Thanks for flagging that for us so that we could have some closure on that before the weekend. Yeah, what's going on, Tobo? Hey, here's a list of companies that donated to BLM. A lot. Oh, we talked about that this morning. Some BLM executive director got indicted for stealing like $5 million for luxury travel, furniture, and food. Yeah. And she looked like it too. So anyways, my friends, it has been a beautiful stream. Thank you so much for being here. Yeah, Boasberg slapped again. Good stuff. All right, so Phil, thank you for that. You are amazing. We appreciate that. Let's say what's up to our friends on X, then we'll call it a Friday, my friends. It's been a beautiful week together. Thank you for joining us and hanging out with us. We will be back tomorrow, Membos. So certainly come back and join us for the Saturday show. Satellite Boy says here's one. Satellite Boy. Yeah, here you go. Okay, Rob, will you please assess my understanding of due process with respect to illegal immigrants? So it's not, he says, so my understanding is not exclusively defined. In other words, there's not a single standard of due process for everybody. Yeah, so simply referencing the process under the law. Yeah, so like there's different standards of due process. So like if you get a speeding ticket, that's a civil ticket, there's a process for that. You are due a process based on the context of the violation. So for speeding, you can request in Arizona a civil traffic hearing. You don't get a jury trial. You don't get any of those things. You do get some process, but only the amount that is due based upon the interests that are at stake. In this case, it's your driving privileges. Now, if you're charged with a DUI, that's a crime. So it's a different set of standards and different process that is due, because now we're not talking about impinging upon your civil driving privileges. We're talking about impinging upon your liberty by putting you in prison or jail in Arizona, where it's mandatory. Non-citizens get a different standard. So if you're a citizen or a non-citizen with legal status, your due process comes through Article 3. Exactly. If you're a non-citizen, you don't have legal status, you're not documented, it goes through Article 2. Nailed it. Yeah, exactly right. Same type of thing in a DUI case, right? Like your driving privileges, you don't get a jury trial to have your license suspended. That's an administrative function. It's an important right for us to drive, but they don't give you a jury trial before they suspend it. You go over to the MVD, the DMV, and that's an executive branch agency. So administratively, they give you some due process that's separate and apart than the criminal charges in a DUI case. So in one case, with the criminal charges, that's Article 3. With your driving privileges, that's Article 2. If you're a non-citizen and don't have legal status and you've committed a crime beyond entering the country illegally, you have business in both 2 and 3. But to my understanding, the Article 2 can supersede Article 3. Yeah, it can. It can. They can just say, we're not going to prosecute you criminally. We're just going to deport you and send you out of here. But they may want to just keep you. Like if it's a real serious Article 3 offense, like if you're a murderer or something like that, who's entered the country 3 or 4 times already, they may say, we're not going to deport you. So we're just going to Article 3 incarcerate you forever. Immigration enforcement falls under Article 2, under the authority of the executive. Exactly. That's why Rubio has the power to revoke visas. Exactly. That's why Trump has the power to expedite removal, because an undocumented citizen's due process occurs under Article 2 in immigration courts created under Article 2. Exactly. So non-citizens are afforded due process. Yep. But that process is determined by their legal status. If their status is legal, their due process is the same as a citizen's due process. Yeah, but except for immigration situations where a citizen doesn't have those same interfaces with the government. They don't need to go through immigration. If you're a non-citizen, your process is still going to go through Article 2 courts. But if you are a resident, if their status is not legal, they are not afforded the same due process as a citizen. So, yeah, that's where a lot of people, I think, get it a little bit twisted right there. It's like the same due process as a citizen. So due process for what? It's like, what are we asking about? Is it where I see the conflation, and I was just talking to somebody at a dinner about this, where I see the conflation is people think that immigration consequences, Article 2 actions like removal, deportation, that type of stuff, should be afforded Article 3 proceedings, like a jury trial. I was talking to something like, well, they're just like removing these people. They're just like picking them off the streets and removing them without any due process. I said, well, like who? Okay, well, in that case, that person had plenty of due process. He had an entire appellate proceeding to challenge his removal. So he had plenty of due process, but what they were thinking is that this person should have been convicted by a jury before they're determined to be removable, which is where it's conflated. So like a citizen doesn't have removable due process protections because they're a citizen, like they're not being removed, right? So they are different because it's a different process. If you're in the country illegally, you're taking a chance. You're taking the chance you might get caught. And the consequence of getting caught without legal status is being removed. A country that doesn't enforce its immigration laws is not a serious country. This was A+, Satellite Boy. Honestly, excellent. And I've had conversations about this with people who just don't, they conflate any action with like a jury trial. You can't remove an illegal unless they're convicted by a jury of their peers. Well, first of all, they don't have any peers here. That's a jury of citizens, not non-citizens. So they get Article 2 protections, which are executive, which are administrative, which are not the same as, you know, what a lot of people think about when it comes to due process, which is a jury trial. So A+, that was excellent. Really, really good. Really deep understanding. And thank you for sharing that. Thank you for taking the time to flesh that out. And I'm really glad that we read that because, yeah, some people say they should have no due process. And I can understand that. But if there was no due process, then that would basically mean, you know, you could just like be judge, jury, and executioner right at the border. Somebody comes across the border, whoever's there can decide whatever they want to do with that person. You look nice, we'll let you in. You look like a gangbanger. How about we just execute you on the border, right? There is no process at all. It's just total bedlam. But illegals have plenty of process. In fact, they get more process than most citizens do. What about the due process that Kilmar got when he was trafficking humans across Tennessee? Any other citizen would get their car impounded for driving on a suspended or revoked license, would get an insurance ticket for not presenting proof of insurance, would have gotten a speeding ticket, would have gotten charges for unsecured passengers in cargo, like 11 of them. That would have been a set of charges, but he didn't even get that, right? He got due process premium. He got a presumption of innocence where the FBI called and said, just let him go. So they get more privileges than even a citizen gets. They get free healthcare, they get free education, they get free housing in many places, they get stipends for their babies, all sorts of insanity. And even our boy Axel agrees. That's when Axel made his appearance on the show. He was a little bit nervous. We talked about it. He's so camera shy. It's like, come on, you can do it. You can do it. Just be brave. Get on the camera. Thank you for that. And amazing. Appeals court. Yeah, so confirming that. Appeals court halts Boasberg's planned contempt hearings. What a joke. Boasberg, they need to take that case away from him. Hopefully that's coming up soon. Good stuff. All right, so my friends, what a lovely Friday stream it has been. Thank you for being here and for joining us on the day. Membos, we'll be back in the morning for Saturday and our Saturday stream. Can't wait to get into it there with you. The heck is that? Is that a kidney bean? We got some interesting gifts going on over here on Locals. I'm not even sure what the heck's going on over there. But, what is this? Oh, gosh. Oh, my goodness. Honestly, I love it. I love it. especially the Chris Farley, okay? It's true. Not the Jen Psaki. Oh, no. Oh, my gosh. All right. I'm officially traumatized after seeing Jen Psaki. And what is this little creature on the bottom left? What is that red-haired creature? Oh, my goodness. All right. I don't even know what to say. All right. But I do like Chris Farley because that's when he was on a boat and he's like screaming at those kids. You're lucky there's not wind out here, punks, or I'd come over there and shove an oar up your... Remember that? For the love of God. All right. Thank you, John. All right. So that's what's going on over on Locals. And I got to process that tonight. Probably call a therapist or something if I can find somebody. All right. So my friends, it has been a beautiful stream. What a lovely Friday it is, especially when Boasberg gets the old Mandamus backhand. We like that. So we'll see what else is percolating out there between now and tomorrow when we come back for our members-only Saturday stream. It has been a lovely Friday, my friends, and an amazing week. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for being here. Amazing mods. Thank you for modding the fort down for us and keeping things nice and orderly around here, including Muffin Rando in the house. We got Donut Mind Me, our friend John in the house, along with K-Bean, Carrie B, Neuro D, Janek, Dog Digger, Geegum Geegum, Just Rhonda, and Elliot, our doc master, dropping some serious docs, including some historical docs. We appreciate that. But we'll pause here for the night. We'll come back tomorrow. Membos for our Saturday stream, 11 Eastern time, 9 Arizona time. What is that? 8 Pacific, something like that. Can't wait to see you. It's going to be amazing. But it's Friday. Hopefully you're doing something fun. Pizza, ice cream, Netflix, whatever. Go wild. You earned it. It's been a heck of a week. But we'll pause for the evening. Thanks once again for being here. Thanks for hitting the subscribe button and the like button on the way out. We'll pause for the night. We'll come back tomorrow. And for membos, we'll get into it again. But until absent that, we'll be back on Monday. And on Monday, we will be here to get into it again. And in order to do that appropriately, we are going to need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Happy Friday. Sleep very well. We'll see you right back here tomorrow or on Monday. Make it a great weekend. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching, my beautiful friends. Now it's that time where the stream must end. You brought the heat with every chatting line. Together we expose corruption. One more time we dove in the truth where the media hides. Lit up the lies with receipts on all sides. The fight isn't over, but we made them sweat. We ain't done yet, no, not just yet. Because together we are watching the watchers. Truth on our side. Watching the watchers. We won't be denied. Watching the watchers. Eyes open wide. Fighting for freedom with nothing to hide. Drop a like and don't forget to share. And bring a friend who's ready to care. Tomorrow's lies are just today's news.